morning, I'm Roger Sutton, Editor-in-Chief of the Hornbook, and I'm here at the Center for the Study of Children's Literature at Simmons College, the day after the Boston Globe Hornbook Awards, and we're lucky to have three of our honorees with us today. We have Jillian Tamaki for They Say Blue, we have Isabel Quintero, Photographic, and we have Julie Fogliano for When's My Birthday? My birthday's in 2 weeks, what's yours?
July.
Okay. And I just wanted to talk to them briefly. I have one question for them. It may devolve into a couple of other questions, and we shall see. But I'm curious to know, most of us read books, we look at pictures, we listen to music, and a select few of us as human beings also have been able to devote our lives to creating those things, and you three are among them. And I'm curious to know, was there a moment or was there a thing that happened that made you realize that you could and would devote your life to creating books? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Because this is actually an easy question, because there was actually one moment for me. I was in 10th grade and I was assigned a short story, and up until that point I had never written a word. I was a reader, but I never considered writing anything, except like my journal. But we were assigned a short story to write. It was just that open, like just write a short story. And I really wasn't that big on my assignments in high school, but for some reason I was ready to go with this one. And so I just remember plopping myself down on my parents' bed, laying down on my stomach with a yellow legal pad, with no ideas in mind. And the story came out of me and just threw me and onto this legal pad. I filled up pages and pages, not even having a single conscious thought about it. And it was a totally bizarre, wacko story that was totally inappropriate to hand to a high school teacher. Yet I did, and I got my first and only A+ in my life. And that story went on to get some kind of award. It got me into college because my grades certainly didn't. Anyway, that feeling of that story kind of coming from somewhere other than my conscious brain and just flying onto the page was the best feeling I'd ever had in my life. And I was like, I need to have this feeling every single day. And I think it probably took me 20 years to get that feeling again. I mean, from then on, I wanted to write. My teacher called me a writer, and I wrote just about every day. But getting that, I don't know what that kind of magic was that happened at that moment.
Do you attribute it to anything? Are you a religious woman?
I wouldn't say religious woman. I do believe in bigger stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is, but I've managed to get back to that place, but it's really hard. But that kind of feeling, and chasing that feeling and chasing that kind of other kind of, I don't know, creative source. I don't know, it's just what I made me in that moment be like, I have got to do this. And yeah, so that was the defining moment for me.
Muriel Spark, the English novelist, said that for her, writing was like taking dictation from God. But do you feel like you're still chasing that moment?
Well, in a different kind of way. Now I do have a routine, and I do sit and write, and I know that there are certain circumstances that I can create for myself that will help me get there more easily. And then there are months where I don't get there at all. So yeah, I guess I am chasing it, but I feel like I maybe have a little bit more control over it now maybe I have a little bit of confidence that it will return, even if I don't see it for a while, because I know now it's come and gone and come and gone, and I kind of have to trust that it will return.
Because you know you can do it.
Yeah, and I've done it, and so, but there is always that fear, what if that was whatever that was? What if it's got forever? But yes, but I do continue to look for that. I mean, that's because that's where all the good stuff seems to come from. So, yeah.
Isabel, do you have a moment that stands out?
So also 10th grade, but I didn't think I was going to be a writer then. I just liked writing. I read E. Cummings' Anyone Lived in Pretty How Town. My 10th grade English teacher made us memorize it, and it was the first moment that I realized, oh, words can do so many things. Punctuation and grammar isn't the most important thing, and it was just, I don't know, an edifying moment. And then in college, I read books by writers like myself, Chicano writers, and I didn't know that we wrote books. I thought it was all just dead white guys because that's all we had read. But that moment when I actually read, it was Chicana Falsa by Michelle Serros, that book just like opened up the world of possibilities. Like, oh, I can use Spanglish, I can use Spanish, I can write about my culture, I can write about these things. And then my goal was never to be a writer because I still didn't believe in that. I was going to be a high school English teacher, and writing, because it would never make me money, would be kind of like a side thing. And I wrote poetry. I never considered myself a fiction writer or a prose writer. And I was going to be a high school English teacher, and I was a terrible high school English teacher. It was terrible. I didn't have a plan B because that's all I was going to be. Like, since kindergarten, I wanted to be a teacher, and in high school, I was like, yep, high school English teacher, that's what I'm going to be. And I went in the classroom, and it was not fit for it. I just couldn't handle it. So I had a moment of crisis. I really did. Like, what am I going to do with my life? And I took my first creative writing class. I've taken 2 creative writing classes, Intro to Poetry and Intermediate Poetry, and that's it. And one of my professor, Julie Pagel, she's also a poet, she said, she's like, oh, you're doing a lot of workshops. And I said, no. And she said, you need to be published. And I believed her. Like, I was just feeling like, oh, one person believes in my writing, and I really started taking my writing seriously. And I had read some YA books in the credential program, and I was like, the books about us are usually about, like, Mexicans joining gangs, or immigrant farm workers, or just, like, the same narrative over and over. And I wanted to write something different. And so in that moment of crisis, I was trying to explore, like, how did I get here? What choices in my life led me to this moment of, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I started writing Gabby a Girl in Pieces. And it was a novel in verse at first, and then, then it switched to what it is now. But it was that moment of like, oh, okay, this is it. Like, I can do this. Like, I can be a writer. And after that, like, I have that fear sometimes as well. Like, what if this is it? What if, like, I don't have any more ideas? But then my anxiety is like, oh no, we have a lot of things to worry about that we need to put in order, because it also helps with my anxiety, because it's control. Like, I can control the story, I can create the world, I can create.
You can do what you want.
Yep. And so, that also works that way for me.
Jillian?
I definitely do not identify with the idea that, like, God is like bestowing some sort of, like, creative energy in a bolt of lightning, because that's just not the way it was. I absolutely did not have any, like, moment, quote unquote. In a way, like, I had to continually prove to myself, like push myself, like, incrementally, because I wasn't, like, very I didn't, like, dream very big, I don't think. Like, when I was thinking about college and all that stuff, I kind of just wanted a security and a job, and I was like, hey, well, what's like a job that's kind of creative, but, like, I could also get
you're so like,
I know, it's because my dad's, like, an accountant, like, like, I don't have artists in my family, so I was like, graphic designer is kind of like that, right? Like, I'll be able to use colors, but also I'll get, like, money. So, but then the program that I happened, just completely by luck, was also illustration, because it was a very sort of, like, old school technical kind of program, and I was much better at that than design, and that was, like, terrifying, because I'm like, oh my god, like, the universe is telling me I'm, like, better at this one thing, but, like, that I don't want to be a freelancer, that's, like, really scary, all this stuff. And then but I just think you have to follow what is the opportunities that are coming to you and are, that you're, like, attracting. So I, did that. I worked in video games for a little while, and at that time, I suddenly had moved to a new city, and, like, I had something to say. Like, I was, exploring the city and exploring being, like, an adult, living on my own for the first time, and I was like, I actually have, like, something I want to communicate to other people. I'm like, I'm not a writer, I don't know how to do that, but I was aware of, like, comics, and that was but that's not even book to me. That's like little photocopied zine pamphlet thing. Like, so it's like, yeah, like a little incremental step towards something like this. Like I never dreamed of hardbound book with a flap, like book jacket. It was very much like, okay, I can make a little pamphlet. Like that's just going down to Staples and photocopying a thing and stapling it together. I can figure that out. And then after that, it was like, a slightly bigger project that somebody else printed and not I'm not Xeroxed. It was a 24-page thing and it was a 100-page thing. So it was like very, very incremental and timid almost in retrospect. But it was, I think the through line was just sort of following like, okay, like this is what I want to do. This feels good, and I'm getting those opportunities. So you have to follow them when you get them.
And do you feel, all three of you, like you can say now I'm a writer, or do you feel like there's another hump you have to get over? Are you there?
I guess I can say that I'm a writer just because that's the thing I do that feels most real to me.
You say writer or poet for yourself?
I definitely don't say poet. I still struggle with the
Poetess?
poet thing. I don't say anything to do. Poetry is still a thing that terrifies me, and I can't claim it. Like I don't know if I ever will be able to say like, oh, I read poetry. Like I don't. It's still high up there for me. And but yeah, I think just because writing is what feels best for me. It's like the way that I feel most myself. So in that sense, I feel like I could say that I'm a writer. But just because it's where I feel like I exist in my best form of myself. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. But
Oh yeah, now I can call myself.
Yeah,
writer.
you guys are both definitely
Yeah.
writers.
No, I can call myself writer. It took me a little bit, but now I feel like I have to respect the work that I do and like the struggles that like took me there, and to not call myself writer would be kind of disrespectful to my older self, my younger self, because now I'm a writer.
I feel like with the kind of books I've made in comics, they've sort of sat uncomfortably within like traditional publishing, world, and like.
But we never know what to call all these new things
No,
youngsters
exactly.
are coming up with.
No, because like illustrator, I am the illustrator of some things. I'm illustrating Julie's book that's coming up, so it's like I feel like that's the appropriate word for that job. But then cartoonist is not illustrator, so like I'm a cartoonist over there, and then here I'm like I guess the author of this book, author illustrator. So like I kind of have that umbrella term of creator, which is like a very jargony hashtaggy word right now, but like kind of unfortunately does sum up sort of that feeling of doing a lot of things.
So what would you say at a cocktail party if someone said, what do you do?
I say I'm a illustrator and cartoonist. Yeah.
Well, I think you all should feel entitled to all the confidence you have because you deserve it. We have proof here. I don't know how people really do it. I don't. I mean, as a book reviewer of how many years, how moving from this side to that side, I just have nothing but admiration for you guys and all that you do. Congratulations. And I hope we see you back here soon, winning again. It's been a pleasure hosting you here in Boston.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.